Hello and welcome, Knowledge Explorers. Hope you've got your curiosity engines warmed up, because today we're diving deep into something that affects so many of us. How technology has completely revolutionized, well, the very act of loving and connecting.
That's right. We've got a couple of really interesting sources in front of us. Digital love, science and future, and the digital transformation of personal relationships, which will be our guides for this exploration.
Seriously, a goldmine of information here. These texts cover everything from how dating apps and social media have changed meeting people to the psychological effects, evolving expectations, and even the rise of non-traditional relationship structures.
So our mission today is to pull out the most important, the most thought-provoking insights from all this data, really get to the heart of how our connections are changing digitally without, drowning you in information.
Exactly. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? How has that initial phase, traditional courtship, actually changed with dating apps bursting onto the scene?
Well, what we're seeing is a profound shift in how people meet. Apps have really democratized access to potential partners in a way we've just never seen before.
Right. Before, you were kind of limited to your social circle, maybe a friend setting you up, being in the right place at the right time. Now, with just a swipe, you've got this huge range of profiles. And it breaks down geographical barriers too, don't you think?
Absolutely. The pool of potential partners just expands massively beyond our immediate surroundings. And let's not forget the algorithms, these digital matchmakers trying to connect people based on interests and behaviors.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting because it's such a stark contrast to traditional courtship, where connections often grew from shared experiences, grabbing a coffee, a common hobby. Now, we're often evaluating people through a screen, through an online profile.
Precisely. It shifts from building relationships through shared activities to, an evaluation based on a digital presentation. Image and a short bio often become the central focus.
And you obviously lose that incredibly valuable information from body language, from a glance. It's just harder to gauge real intentions online, isn't it?
That's a key point. The lack of nonverbal cues in online interactions is significant. These cues are pretty essential for building genuine rapport and for, fully understanding someone's emotions and intentions.
And clearly, it's not all smooth sailing. That anonymity and those often perfect profiles, they open the door to superficiality, deception, and the dreaded catfishing. Maybe we should quickly explain what that is.
Good idea. Yeah, so catfishing is basically creating a fake online profile, often using someone else's photos and info to deceive people into relationships, usually romantic ones. And yes, the ease of creating fake identities and the difficulty verifying information definitely create trust issues and can lead to really painful situations, something less common face-to-face.
Okay, but here's the million-dollar question. Are couples who meet online happier or less happy than those who meet the traditional way? The studies seem a bit all over the place on this, right?
Yeah, what's fascinating here is the variety of findings. Some studies suggest no significant difference in relationship satisfaction between the two groups. Some even indicate higher satisfaction and lower divorce rates for couples who met online.
Wow, that's surprising. But then there's research pointing in the opposite direction, too.
Correct. Other research talks about a potential online dating effect, suggesting these couples might experience slightly less satisfying and stable marriages.
So why the discrepancy? What factors could explain these conflicting conclusions?
Well, we could probably attribute these inconsistencies to several things. The evolution of the platforms themselves over time, different methodologies used in the studies, the specific apps being analyzed.
I guess societal views might play a part too, if there's still some stigma around meeting online.
That's another important point. Potential social stigma, the often greater geographical distance in these relationships, and maybe that feeling that there's always another option available just a swipe away, which could, foster a less committed mindset.
And speaking of skills, do you think relying too much on digital interaction affects our ability to actually connect with someone in person?
That's a really relevant question. While online dating can provide a less intimidating first step for people with some social anxiety, over-reliance on these interactions could have negative long-term consequences.
What kind of consequences are we talking about?
Well, the lack of consistent face-to-face interaction just reduces opportunities to practice interpreting those verbal and nonverbal social cues we mentioned, like tone of voice, posture, facial expressions.
Right. It's like our social radar gets a bit rusty from lack of use.
Exactly. And that could potentially lead to less confidence when it comes to initiating conversations or navigating real-life social situations smoothly.
Let's switch gears a bit and talk about social media. It seems to play a kind of dual role in our romantic relationships, doesn't it? Helping us connect and maintain things, but also being a source of quite a bit of conflict.
It really does. Social media is pretty fundamental now for developing and maintaining relationships, especially long-distance ones. It lets couples stay in touch, share experiences, express affection, and it's also become a sort of public showcase for the relationship.
Yeah, that need to show the world how happy we are. But that very public nature can be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely. What's interesting is how that public aspect can become a breeding ground for jealousy, suspicion, and conflict. Online interactions are just so easily misinterpreted, which can breed insecurity and distrust.
Oh man, how many arguments must have started over a simple like or a comment that just didn't land right?
Precisely. The ease with which partners can see each other's interactions, the difficulty in reading tone in text, and those carefully curated online personas we all project, it's a recipe for misunderstanding. And the lack of nonverbal cues just makes it worse.
And let's not forget the common practice of stalking ex-partners, a modern classic.
Yeah, a habit that definitely makes it harder to move on and fuels comparisons, often with idealized versions of other people's lives.
And social media also plays a significant role when relationships end, doesn't it?
Definitely. It can act as both a facilitator of the breakup and sometimes even a record of the problems leading up to it. It's actually cited surprisingly often in divorce cases.
Seriously, it goes that far.
Well, the permanence and public nature of social media content mean it can potentially be used as evidence in legal proceedings. Things like increased emotional distance due to online distractions, the risk of infidelity through reconnecting with past flames, comparisons with idealized online relationships, and arguments specifically about social media use these can all contribute to a relationship's breakdown.
Let's focus now on the psychological side. How are dating apps and social media actually affecting our self-esteem and body image?
The psychological effects are pretty significant. That whole swipe culture and the intense focus on physical appearance lead to objectification both of others and ourselves, and really superficial judgments.
It's like we become just another item in an online catalog, where the photo is the first and sometimes only thing people look at.
Exactly. The swipe interface itself encourages a culture of quickly evaluating and discarding potential partners, often without taking the time to really get to know the person behind the profile.
And then there's the whole issue of beauty filters. That's a pretty tricky subject.
Oh, absolutely. What's fascinating and a bit worrying is how the widespread use of filters and photo editing distorts both our self-perception and our expectations of others.
You see so many seemingly perfect faces and bodies online, it's easy to start feeling insecure about your own real appearance.
Right. Filters almost become the norm, affecting how we evaluate potential partners and creating unrealistic beauty standards. That disconnect between real appearance and online images can create a lot of pressure and dissatisfaction.
And that constant search for validation through likes and matches, how does that impact self-worth?
The sort of gamified nature of these apps, with likes, matches, and superficial validation acting as rewards, taps into our brain's dopamine circuits. It can lead to quite addictive behaviors, this constant seeking of external approval.
Like an emotional slot machine, but one that can really damage your self-esteem if you don't hit the jackpot.
Precisely. Rejection or a lack of engagement can have a really negative impact on self-worth. It's not surprising that studies have linked online dating use with higher rates of anxiety, depression, and general emotional distress.
Well, let's talk about how this whole digital landscape is shaping our expectations in relationships. Are we moving too fast, expecting instant commitment? How has communication changed?
Well, that sheer abundance of choice on dating apps can lead to what's called the paradox of choice. Users feel overwhelmed by the possibilities and, paradoxically, end up less satisfied with their final selection, always wondering if someone better was just another swipe away.
It's like going to a massive buffet. You don't know what to choose, you try a bit of everything, and end up feeling kind of unsatisfied.
And that can hinder commitment, fostering a more disposable view of relationships. There's always another profile just a finger flick away.
And circling back to filters, it seems they also create unrealistic expectations about physical attractiveness, both for ourselves and potential partners.
Definitely. As filtered images become the online beauty standard, it inevitably influences how we evaluate others' attractiveness. and fuels our own insecurities about how we look.
And that feeling we talked about, that we always deserve something better, that sense of relational entitlement.
That's intensified by the illusion of unlimited options. We might constantly be searching for something better and develop unrealistic expectations for our actual relationships.
Interestingly, it seems apps might also be tweaking traditional gender roles in dating a bit, don't you think?
Yes, there's some observation that women often take a more active role in initiating conversations on apps, which historically wasn't always the case.
Let's pivot now and explore something increasingly visible: non-monogamous relationships and how technology is facilitating their growth and management.
Technology is definitely playing an increasingly significant role in how polyamorous and ethically non-monogamous relationships are navigated and managed.
There are specific apps, online communities, a whole digital ecosystem developing.
That's right. You have dating apps and online communities designed specifically for people exploring or practicing non-monogamy, offering safer spaces to connect with like-minded individuals. And communication tools like instant messaging and shared calendar apps really help with open discussion about boundaries, schedules, and managing multiple relationships.
But I imagine there are unique challenges too, right? Social stigma, managing jealousy. How does the digital environment affect those?
Technology can also amplify some inherent challenges. Online visibility and the need to manage digital interactions with multiple partners introduce new layers of complexity.
So transparency and communication become even more critical in that context, I'd guess.
Absolutely. The core principles of ethical non-monogamy, consent, honesty, respect, are arguably even more crucial online. It requires careful consideration of everyone's privacy boundaries, transparent communication about online interactions, and enthusiastic consent regarding what's shared online to avoid ethical pitfalls.
And it looks like specialized platforms like Soulmatcher or polymorous.com are popping up to cater to these specific needs.
Yes, these platforms aim to provide tailored spaces for people with different goals within the non-monogamous spectrum, whether they're looking for long-term connections or exploring different ethical relationship structures.
And what would you say are the biggest challenges of digital polyamory specifically?
Managing multiple emotional connections, primarily through online communication, coordinating schedules among several people, maintaining clear and consistent communication, and setting firm digital boundaries are probably some of the most significant hurdles.
But on the flip side, technology can also be a powerful tool for building community and normalizing these relationship models, can't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
These platforms help create online communities where people can share experiences, find support, and access educational resources. This really contributes to greater understanding and acceptance of diverse relationship structures.
Of course, it's not all positive in this digital love landscape. There are darker sides. Let's talk about things like cyberstalking, digital infidelity, and that growing dependence on dating platforms.
These are definitely some of the more worrying aspects. Cyberstalking, which is often linked to intimate partner violence, involves using technology to control, harass, and intimidate someone, causing significant psychological distress and fear.
That sounds genuinely terrifying. And what exactly do we mean by digital infidelity?
Digital infidelity covers a spectrum of online behaviors outside a committed relationship that breach trust, from intense emotional affairs online to explicit sexual interactions. It can be just as damaging as physical infidelity, really eroding trust and stability.
And that feeling that we need the apps, either for validation or just to meet someone.
The design of many dating apps, with their reward systems and endless swiping loops, can definitely foster addictive behaviors and an over-reliance on them for validation. This can seriously interfere with forming and maintaining meaningful real-life relationships.
It seems like certain personality types might be more prone to these negative online behaviors.
Research does suggest that individuals who feel strong competition with same-sex rivals might be more inclined towards digital abusive behaviors towards their partners, like online spying or trying to restrict their online social interactions.
And any specific personality traits linked to this?
Yes. Low agreeableness, as a personality trait, has been associated with a higher likelihood of engaging in digital abuse within romantic relationships.
What would be some warning signs, red flags, that might indicate someone is experiencing or perpetrating digital abuse?
Things like demanding passwords, constantly monitoring a partner's online activity without consent, or trying to isolate them from their digital contacts are major warning signs.
Okay, this brings us to a crucial point: that growing dependence on dating apps and the burnout they can cause.
Yes, dating app dependence and the phenomenon of dating app burnout are increasingly common problems. As we've touched on, the design can encourage addictive use and a constant search for external validation.
Spending huge amounts of time just swiping, waiting for that notification.
Exactly. This excessive use can lead to neglecting real-life interactions, developing unrealistic expectations, and ultimately having negative consequences for mental and emotional well-being.
And how does that burnout actually manifest itself in the online dating world?
It often shows up as emotional exhaustion, frustration, and sometimes a sense of hopelessness. It's the result of that constant cycle of swiping, matching, messaging, and often having conversations that don't lead anywhere meaningful.
Are there strategies people can use to manage this dependence and try to avoid burnout?
Setting clear time limits for app usage, consciously prioritizing real-life interactions, and taking regular breaks from the platforms altogether are really important strategies.
And we come back to the paradox of choice. Does that play a role in this feeling of burnout too?
Yes, absolutely. The sheer volume of options can lead to decision fatigue and less satisfaction with any choice made. That constant awareness of countless other potential partners lurking just beyond the screen can hinder commitment and fuel a sense of chronic dissatisfaction.
All right, to wrap up this fascinating journey, let's look ahead. What role might emerging tech like AI and VR play in how we connect in the future?
These emerging technologies definitely promise to transform our relationship dynamics even further. Artificial intelligence, for instance, could revolutionize online dating with much more personalized and efficient matching, potentially analyzing deeper layers of user data like personality and communication styles.
Wow, could we end up having AI chatbots help us practice conversation starters before a real date? Seems like sci-fi.
Well, people are actually testing AI chatbots for things like conversation starters and even simulating interactions. But this raises huge questions about the future of human connection and the ethics of forming emotional bonds with non-sentient entities, privacy, manipulation, the impact on real-world social skills.
And could virtual reality let us go on dates in entirely new worlds without leaving our living rooms?
VR and augmented reality definitely hold the potential for more immersive and interactive dating experiences. Think virtual dates in simulated environments, enhanced profiles with interactive elements. VR could create a greater sense of presence for long-distance couples, while AR could overlay digital info onto the real world, offering new ways to express personality.
Like having a date on Mount Everest without the altitude sickness.
The goal is really to create more engaging and immersive experiences than traditional apps allow, potentially overcoming geographical barriers and fostering deeper initial connections. And although it's very early days, some are even looking at future applications of neurotechnology in dating.
Okay, so to sum up, it's a truly fascinating and constantly evolving landscape. Technology offers incredible opportunities for connection, but it also presents significant challenges we need to navigate mindfully.
Absolutely. Apps have changed how we meet. Social media influences how relationships are maintained and sometimes ended. And our psychology is impacted by filters and the quest for online validation.
Expectations are shifting, non-monogamy is gaining visibility, partly thanks to tech, but we also see the shadows of cyberstalking and platform dependence.
And the future with AI and VR promises even more transformation, but it's crucial we proceed thoughtfully, establishing healthy boundaries and really considering the ethical implications of technology-mediated intimacy.
The key seems to be finding that balance, doesn't it? Balancing the benefits technology offers with that fundamental need for authentic, meaningful human connection. Well, Knowledge Explorers, we hope this deep dive into the world of digital love has been as interesting for you as it has for us.
Definitely a topic that will continue to evolve and generate discussion.
Now it's over to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so please do leave your comments below. If you found this deep dive insightful, give us a thumbs up. And if you want to join us for more explorations into the world around us, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, keep seeking those truths.